Today, we're diving into something that affects pretty much all of us. It's this funny little quirk in our brains that makes us think we're probably going to have a brighter future than, the next person. And it shapes our decisions every single day. All right, let's start with a quick gut check. And be honest, when you're behind the wheel, do you feel like you've got slightly better skills, maybe faster reflexes than the average driver out there? Come on, you can admit it. Okay, how about this one? When you think about things like getting the flu or other health issues, do you kind of feel like your personal odds are just a little bit better than what the stats say for everybody else? And one last one. Think about a big project at work, or maybe something you're doing at home. Deep down, are you pretty sure you can pull it off, hit that deadline, and maybe even come in under budget? If you found yourself nodding along to any of those, or maybe all of them, you are definitely not alone. Actually, you're just experiencing one of the most common biases in all of human psychology. It's called the optimism bias. So, what is this thing really? Why does it have such a hold on us? Well, you could say it's our brain's built-in "it won't happen to me" filter. To put a finer point on it, the optimism bias is our natural tendency to believe good things are more likely to happen to us personally, while bad things, well, those are for other people. It's a basic miscalculation we make when we think about our own future. And look, this isn't some personality trait or something specific to certain cultures. Nope, it's found everywhere in all genders at all ages. It's so fundamental to how a brain works that scientists have even seen it in animals. We're talking rats and birds. It's just that ingrained. Which of course leads to the big question, why? Why are our brains wired this way, to always look on the bright side, even when it's not totally rational? Well, researchers have zeroed in on a few key reasons. First and foremost, it's about our ego. A big part of this bias is that, well, it just feels good to be optimistic. It helps us protect our positive view of ourselves. And that breaks down into two parts. First, there's self-enhancement. It's just way more satisfying and less stressful to think good things are coming your way. It keeps anxiety at bay. And second, there's self-presentation. We're social animals, right? And being an optimist is usually seen as a more attractive trait than being a downer. So we kind of unconsciously play the part. The next huge factor is something called the illusion of control. We tend to believe we have way more influence over our lives and our surroundings than we actually do. This idea of control is everything. Take driving. Research shows we feel much safer, much more optimistic about avoiding an accident if we're the one with our hands on the wheel, even though, statistically, the risk might be exactly the same. The feeling of being in charge makes us feel invincible. And the final piece of this puzzle is just a simple information problem. We know ourselves inside and out, but we barely know anything about other people. Think about it. When you judge your risk, you've got this massive file of personal data, right? You know your exact driving habits, your diet, your past successes, all your secret plans. But when you think about their risk, someone else's, all you've got is this vague idea of a faceless average person based on statistics. So of course, when you compare your detailed, positive self-image to that blurry average, you're going to think you have the edge. Okay, so being an optimist sounds pretty good so far, and a lot of the time it is, but this bias can have a real dark side. When that hope clouds our judgment, the results can be, well, pretty bad. Take public health, for example. That "it won't happen to me" feeling is a massive hurdle. It actively stops us from taking really simple, smart steps to protect our own well-being. Because we systematically underestimate our own personal risk, we're more likely to do things we know are bad for us. Things like smoking or eating poorly or skipping the sunscreen, all because on some level we feel like we'll be the one to get away with it. And this isn't just a personal problem. In the world of business and big projects, this bias creates something called the planning fallacy. It's our terrible, almost chronic inability to estimate how long things will take and how much they will cost. And we're not talking about small mistakes here. This single cognitive bias is seen as one of the main reasons why huge projects, think airports, bridges, entire transit systems, go catastrophically over budget and miss their deadlines by years. The cost runs into the billions and billions of dollars. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. If this bias is so powerful and can be so destructive, can we fix it? Can we just teach our brains to be a little more realistic? Well, the answer is, it's really, really hard.
researchers have found that the optimism bias is incredibly stubborn. In fact, and this is wild, sometimes when you try to warn people about their bias, they just double down on their original belief. It can actually make things worse.
So what does work? Well, we know what doesn't. Just telling someone, hey, you're being too optimistic does basically nothing. What might help is, unfortunately, a direct personal encounter with a negative event. A tough lesson for sure. A less painful strategy is to change who you're comparing yourself to. Instead of that vague, average person, try comparing your risk to a close friend. That can sometimes bring our predictions back down to earth. And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. Sure, this bias can lead to bad personal choices and disastrous projects. But if it's so deeply baked into who we are, maybe it serves a purpose. Could it be that this little bit of irrational hope is what actually pushes us to start a new business or explore a new idea or take the big risks that every now and then lead to incredible progress? What do you think?